Well, hi guys. Thank you so much for opening this video up. I appreciate that you guys are trying to keep on going with school even though we're in red. I know teachers have been having a tough time with it, and I'm sure you are too, but I appreciate that you're sticking with it. I hope that things are going okay for you. Please reach out to the school if you're struggling at all, if you need to talk to anyone, that kind of thing. Just please let us know. And we're going to be making ourselves available to you. You can always email me, message me on Remind with whatever you need. Just let us know. So you're going to need your homework practice worksheet for 3-3 today. I'm going to be going through some example problems with you. So we're going to start on the first page, problem 1, and it says to state the slope and the y-intercept of the graph. The most important thing to know here is that we need to learn a new equation. This equation is called slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form in its entirety is y equals mx plus b. Go ahead and pull out your notebook too and write this down. All right. So in y equals mx plus b, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. We'll talk about what those mean in just a little bit. So go ahead and write that down. That's going to be something you will use for a long time. Pause this video if you need to. I'm going to go to the next slide. So if we're looking at our first equation in number 1, we're going to think of it in y equals mx plus b form. I can draw that. So it says state the slope and the y-intercept. So we want to find what m and b are. That's what our answer is going to be here. So our m is whatever is in front of x. M is always the coefficient, the number in front of x. It will always be the case. So our m in this case is 4. Our b is the one that's going to be separate. It's going to be the constant number that does not have a variable attached to it. And in this case, it's 1. And I know what you're going to be thinking. Is that it? That is it. That's all you have to do for these problems. Do not overthink it. That's all you have to do. Number 2, again, we'll use our y equals mx plus b form. And we'll say what m equals, and we'll say what b equals, and that's it. That's all you have to do. In this case, our coefficient in front of x is -3. So m is just simply -3. Our b is the number separate. It's the constant, and that is at 5. And that's how you do those problems. Shouldn't be too bad. The next type of problem you will have, I can switch to it, is when you don't have y by itself. Sometimes you'll have a y and an x over here, you'll have all the numbers over here, but you want it in y equals mx plus b form. So this is number 5 on your worksheet, if you can find that. So here I look at this and I want y by itself, but it is not here. So all I have to do is I want to move this plus 3x. We do the inverse of that. This is just like solving equations. So you're going to subtract 3x from both sides. And then be very, very careful here. -7 and -3x cannot be combined. Now, because I have it in y equals mx plus b form, I'm going to put the x first. So we have -3x, and we still have this -7 hanging out here. And now we have y falls down. Y is Mufasa. The 3x's are like Power Rangers, so they cross out. And that's it. Now we can celebrate. We can do a little happy dance because we have our y equals mx plus b form. And all I have to do is say what m and b are. So my m is what's in front of the x. It's the coefficient in front of x, which is -3. and my b value is the one that's separate. It's not just 7. In this case, it's -7. And now we're going to talk about graphing them. So if you need to pause this to write this down, go ahead and do so. Maybe try the other problem that's on your worksheet on your own before moving on. I'm going to go to the next slide now, so pause this if you need to. So the directions for this are to use slope and intercept to graph this. I haven't explained what y-intercept is, so I'll do that right now. So an interception in football is where the football is thrown and you cross and grab it. I don't know a lot about football, but I at least know that. So the intercept in the graph that we have here is if you have your y-axis is the vertical axis. It's where we intercept or where we cross the y-axis. I do not have this in slope-intercept form. My y is definitely not alone in this equation, so I need to kind of get y by itself. Now, I could move y over, but instead I'm going to move this x just to get y by itself. So the opposite of subtracting 2/3 is adding. So I'm just going to add 2/3 x to both sides. You cannot just ditch the x. The x has to stay on. So you'll add 2/3 x to both sides. You also cannot combine 1 and 2/3 x because 1 does not have a variable. They're two different things. So now we have 2/3 x plus 1. They just go next to each other. And then we can also celebrate because if those cancel out, Power Ranger style, y falls down and we have y by itself. Now, if I want it in y equals mx plus b form, I can just switch the order. So y equals 2/3 x plus 1. Now, this is looking very, very similar to our last problems. The first thing we want to do is we want to figure out what our intercept is. Our intercept in this case is the one that's not attached to x, and it's 1. That's going to be where we start on the graph. 1 on the y-axis is going to be your first point. Then I want to know what my slope is, what my m is. Let's do a new color for that. I wish I had you guys here to pick my colors. But so our m in this case is whatever in front of the x, which is 2/3. In the last lesson, we were talking about m is your rise or fall over how much you're going over. So in this case, we're rising 2, running 3. So we're rise over run. We're actually going through this in my algebra class as well. So if you know any algebra students, ask them about slope. I'm sure it's high school students' favorite talking point to talk about y equals mx plus b form, but they're doing it as well. So we're rising 2, running 3. This is always going to be from your y-intercept. You start at your y-intercept, and then you go from there. So I'm going to rise 1, 2, run 3. 1, 2, 3. You always do it like you're reading a book, so you go from left to right. Now, but I cannot do that again. I can, however, do the reverse of that. You will not want a V, so instead of rising 2, we're going to fall 2 and then reverse 3. So I just basically worked backwards to get my line drawn. And that is how we do it. If you need any more help, just reach out to me with this. I'm going to go through this word problem. The good news is, pause this video if you need to. The good news is, if you watch this far, your reward for watching this far is you do not have to do problem number 11. You just have to do problem number 10. So this problem is going to be exactly like how we did the last problem. You're going to start first with your intercept. They give us an equation, and we can just use our y equals mx plus b form to graph this. We always start with our b, or our intercept, and it looks like in this case the one that's alone is 15. So I'm going to find 15 on my graph and just draw a little point there. Then I want to know, what's my slope? Well, the slope is the one in front of the x, and our slope in this case is 15. Now this one doesn't even have a denominator, but if there's no denominator, you can always just put it over 1. Because it's positive, I know I'm rising and not falling. And that is our rise over our run. So I'm rising 15, running 1. So from 15, I would go up to 30 and then go over 1. Go up 15, over 1. Up 15, over 1. And then you can draw your line from there. It's a terrible drawing of a line, but that's fine. So it says the total cost y. So this right here, this axis right here, y, is talking about cost. So label that. And then it says for X nights. Our X value is the number of nights that you camped. So if we're talking about, it says interpret the slope and the y-intercept. We're talking about our intercept here. We started with $15. It says the entrance fee to the national park is $15. So it's a $15 entrance fee. I'm actually just going to type this. It's a $15 entrance fee. And then it says to interpret the slope. Well, it's $15 per night. That is your interpretation. And that's your answers. So again, you do not have to do 11. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. I appreciate every single one of you guys. I know a lot of you guys are working really hard to stay up to date and stay on task and not fall behind. I really appreciate that. I'm really proud of you guys. Please reach out to me if you need any help. All right, see you guys.